So mark this Kishtihin, there's a Kerihid lane per millimeter, Tashi after the diffraction grating. Okay, so your diffraction grating D, Cosmahin, Ishkan Kerihid, Midi Famila. So these is in Cosmana 2.5 by 10 to the power of minus 6 per meter, okay, so it's in the diffraction grating. Okay, now mark this as the formula. The n lambda cosmla d sine theta to the first order. Okay, so it is switching us rearrange the formula. So the sine theta cosmla n lambda is n lambda is d. Okay, so Tashmidla done Solus Jarek. So Tashilan Solus Jarek, gene wavelength of theta. So funny Solus Jarek test called sine theta, cosmla, it's the second order in a way. So second order, so shin n cosmla da, maybe for wavelength, that's short to j, maybe for j, gwertha she lugini, because it's nanometers, 10 to the power of minus 9. Okay, the league is gone 2.5 by 10 to the power of minus 6. Okay, so these tasks are equal theta cosmla sine to the minus 1 that da for 710 so shin mile carry head safi maybe for 10 to the power of minus 9 the league is gone 2.5 by 10 to the power of minus 6. So I'm going to finish down the calculator. Jim Frigre. Huh? Right, just upper marsh out to here, do we? So, Kursa, da bracket 710 by 10 to the power of minus 9. That's not one calculator long. Get down my calculator, so I tell me he's nothing. Degrees. So 34.61. Well, that's in radians or degrees. Just check on the calculator. Nah? Ah, it's okay. That is degrees, and that's what the same text are. So I think 5 inch and 30. Excellent. So 34.61 degrees. Now, shin funny solid static, right? To the normal. Shin to the normal. Now, Jen and chef funny solid. Jen solid a little. Got him. Okay, so it's the sine theta nash, cosmla, because the east was in darna order grating faster, so da bracket, I guess this is 410 by 10 to the power of minus 9. 2.5 by 10 to the power of minus 6, go with this cat. Okay, so the theta, cosma inverse sine, that 820 by 10 to the power of minus 9, the league is 2.5 by 10 to the power of minus 6. Theta cosma, so mobile, there's no more do any. Exactly, 1415 for so 15. So 19.15 degrees. Okay. Now, Jean Chester Horseshaw. What is the angular separation? So Jean Ellen at a Jarek agus a Gorum. So Rudder Jean Tunchin is Jolly Ellen Awanya Moskin Ellen. So an Ellen Eder and Ye De. So an Ellen Edrania dash and Soha Keha Ponchie Heen, Luja Nijig Ponchie Heen a quick. Question is Shasik Hacker Shanash. I guess you to figure that quick jig Ponchie Kehera. Karen, I think be. Care shake yeah. So that's the angle of separation between the two colours. Chicken Shushan? Chicken Shun Kiss? Yeah? Right. Right. Right, so we go. Jen Kiss over the donuts. Right, so here Kiss, you turn. Right, so Kiss your door part here Kiss. What is meant by the diffraction of light? Adam na any kiddy figure horses in? Nope. Nope. Which your G ray, it's the spreading out of light when it passes through a gap. So you can show? Now, one of those goes to can machine the catch you as this text. Catch you a diffraction this text. When does the back of G just so that I go all this I'm going the back of G cool the chapter, cool the lower, right? Go all the way back to G, usually to on this I'll go and show you might go the index okay, but at least because I got to see head couple of chapter. I'm working to finish refraction is diffraction. So market this chapters Keher and Shan Lena Fisa Charter there. Okay, now it's in refraction, but then you quite do diffraction. So refraction or diffraction region, but also have lenses. But also has a chapter revision. Alright, so it's the Midbalgogene chapter revision. Now, well, actually, we've already jumped going for sound, so to later on, right? Now, so I'm still record that there. That's okay. So, can I G definition of horror diffraction G rin? Right? So, Arkashot. So, G R A O N A D H. So, G rin solus. Okay. So, Shaw and Spray. De solus Nurahinsha Fridge Barn. Shaw and spray so it spreads out beyond the gap. Do you can show? Okay. Now we actually rode through my Gary Chishbandi, which was quite interesting. Which Chinese community paper school days so more has been a video so the time I recorded I think so I'm just going to pause our
into the study of quantum mechanics. If you throw solid balls at a shield with a slit cut into it, a single diffuse strip designating the strike points will appear on the screen behind the shield. If there are two slits in the shield, then there will be two strips. But how will waves behave if aimed at the shield? They will pass through the slot and spread out. The greatest impact of the waves will be in the line of the slit, as in the case with the balls. But if you add a second slit, everything changes. A number of alternating interference strips will appear on the projection screen. And when we shine light on the two strips, this is exactly what happens. And this is how Mr. Young proved the wave theory of light. If light were corpuscular, like a particle, instead of wave-like, it would behave like the balls, and the screen would show two strips of light corresponding to the two slits. That didn't happen. Later, it turned out that electrons and protons behave exactly the same way, showing that they also seem to exist as waves and not as points. There was one assumption that perhaps light and the others were particles and that somehow the particles bumped into each other and flew apart. So, to test this, physicists decided to shoot electrons at the target one by one, single file. And what do you think happened? The strangest thing imaginable. The interference pattern still appeared on the screen. It seemed that the single electrons somehow divided into two waves, passed through both slits, then interfered with themselves. Impossible. So physicists tried to find out through which gap the electron actually passes. They installed measuring instruments to check this. Another seeming impossibility occurred. The electrons stopped behaving like waves and began acting like particles, and left a trace on the screen of two distinct strips with no interference. They had to admit something completely mind-blowing, that the fact of our observation or measurement destroyed the wave function of the photons, causing them to become like points, corpuscular. The electron, under the influence of observation, behaved like a particle, flying through one slit and not through two. Interpretations. Well, it certainly looks like the work of a game engine, doesn't it? This might make you think that our world is running like a game on a computer. The computer's power is not enough to calculate the motion of each and every particle, so it uses a simplified model and applies precise calculations only if an observer needs to look at the particle, so as not to break the illusion of the...
There you go. But you can choose to this tower tension.
Remember one of the most famous experiments in the history of physics, the experiment of Thomas Young, the double slit experiment. It was a real coup in physics and led many scientists into the study of quantum mechanics. If you throw solid balls at a shield with a slit cut into it, a single diffuse strip designating the strike points will appear on the screen behind the shield. If there are two slits in the shield, then there will be two strips. But how will waves behave?
Right. So I think when you put the voltage, that so like any question is leaving circle in your mind, explain what the sample experiment how wave was or how light was discovered to be a wave motion. So it is typical Lord for that Young slit. So it is the double slit. I guess that it shows an interference pattern exactly causing a wave, so therefore it must be a wave motion. Chicken chef. So Shinikina Kesti Hikini. Was an okay again? Okay, so we move back in us and the Kistni mats. So raised G renew is the spreading out of light when it goes through a gap. Okay, beyond the gap, spreading to more head and gap, I guess. Okay, so Shinik head part. Now, Kist every white light is passed through a diffraction grating and a number of spectra are formed. Now, use the diffraction grating formula to explain the following, assuming that the wavelength of visible light lies between 4 by 10 power minus 7 and 8 by 10 power minus 7 meters. So, shouldn't wavelength either in violet, I guess the jarek. Okay? Now, what can I say? The dice fairly show a venue is la diffraction grating, right? So to let the white light bulb go for each diffraction grating, in the diffraction grating, I guess that's going to produce a solace or a screen. Okay, so it is malachmit. Now, can you come to a split of solace is different colours, so it shouldn't need any different. Does that make sense? Okay, now to violet, I get Jeru, indigo and violet, I guess the Jarek is the furthest away. Now, moving into Shenfried's prism, it's the complete opposite. Ten angle, it's ten Jarek, I guess the violet split the Balala heart. So, Kite Vikurima Lashan, motion okay again, right? Now, so test going go to violet egg, violet egg 4 by 10 to the power, so it's the Shunic 4 by 10 to the power of minus 7 meters. I guess in Jarek egg 8 by 10 to the power of minus 7 meters. Okay, so Shin, so Kosla, Shin an angle, I guess Shin an angle and Shin, so that's the angle between the two colours. Okay, so in cos the heen we go more an angle at the jarrig agus garm, next we go more an angle at the jarrig violet. Now, spray machine nondis, do I go shot there. Now, kesh over the heen, so shin the white light. Shin the white light to shine illumination. Okay, now, obviously, the spectrum of the Gulliver Heason, the spectrum of the Gulliver Heason shot. Okay, I guess the east is going to be the complete opposite. So it's the shin violet, I guess the shot Gulliver Jarrig, because you're going the opposite direction. The east, 4 by 10 to the power of minus 7 meters, 8 by 10 to the power of minus 7 meters. Okay, I guess the east we're an angle kernel between the two meridiana. So that should be theta, should be the same angle. Which is okay, does that make sense? Okay, now this is Shinjante. So that should be your n equals 0. Obviously we're quite late in Shaw good. And then you have n equals 1. I guess n equals 1 in Shaw. And then you have n equals 2, n equals 2 through the starter spread out. So you can angle ni small as you spread out. Right. Now, why is dispersion greater in the higher orders? Now, means that so n equals 1 to dispersion on, right? Niall Moran and Charles all white light is like Muller Hill so produces white light. Now the rear main within your ma, the distance between them expands. So kestje horan sha katia. Okay? So katia. So smooch yes shin. So part of the heen Royal Goal Gajani small. Can you come your angle, sine of the angle is always divided by n, which is the order. So kahin and it has to be always the kaisvegoni mure gerne. So the angle has to be twice. When you second order, third order, it has to be 3 times wider. Do you see what I'm right? Okay, so twice violation is so huglet rech Murial and factor the n and order. It's all due to the n order. Do you see what I'm right? Because Malaka is an angle when your n equals 1, so we cheer the formula. To n lambda cosma d sine theta. So to lambda the wavelength is equal to d sine theta is gone n. Okay? Now the diffraction grating doesn't change. Then L in the gathow, because it's getting wider as we move up, because my Ramugin darn or the climate ran through door, so it needs so sine of the angle needs to be twice. So you can see what I'm right, so therefore it's quality in small. Okay? Okay, so I guess so Marial golden factor the n and order right, so it's the bigger order, right? Ni small. So Marial golden factor the n and order ni small. It's greater, and that's why they're more spread out. Does that make sense, Steve? Because Abernus Grummer secured to the wavelength of Jarek, right? So how do we calculate the wavelength of red? So Kermit lambda cosma d the diffraction grating sine theta, so bijin angle to other shin agus a normala around their heat. Now, kain angle we wide ni small near to around their dog. Kain angle we ni small east near to around their 3 because that should give you the exact same wavelength. It has to be always the same wavelength. Red doesn't, the wavelength of red will never change. But because there's a spread your money's fuji, that's why, because the order is getting bigger. Does that make sense? Then order get any small. Okay? So because of the bigger n factor, so these small to ma and ellen either jarek, agus violet, near to n cosma heen, agus near to n cosma, for example, 3, it should be bigger. Okay, okay, does that make sense to you? Okay, now part of the dot. Why is the red light diffraction more than the violet in any particular order spectrum? So mark this or shot. Then violet is the least diffracted. How can you use? Mark this or diagram shot. Show that violet. Show that jarek. So diffracted means the angle spread out. it's the least, it's the least diffracted, where the red is the most diffracted. But Katia, because red has a longer wavelength, so to tonad, so rescreen to go tonad nismo ig. Okay, so red has a greater wavelength. Okay, so nismo at lambda nismo and ln theta. Does that make sense? So the greater lambda is the greater the angle. Okay. Now, just check that one. Still record that. That's okay. Now, make me here just over the 3. What is the maximum wavelength that can be obtained when a given grating is grating in A, the first order, or B, the second order? Okay, so part over the 3. So rate go the n lambda cosma d sin theta. Okay, so shinder hedjan. Now, reached will rearrange to lambda cosma d sin theta is gone n. Okay. Now, malak met in je n cosma heen. So rod the dirtja. So to lambda max or usvage cosma sin or d sin theta. Okay. Okay, cosma d sin theta. So in this case, the sin theta for your maximum cosma, can we go rod the sine of 90 degrees equals 1. So therefore, which the cosma d. So it's just equal to the diffraction grating. There's the n cosma da, the lambda max, cosma d, sin theta is gonna da. Okay, so it is an angle, so it's d over 2, so it's half the diffraction grating. Okay, what's an okay when you figure it down here? That's the ancient Celtic. Yeah. So just what is the maximum wavelength that can be obtained with a given grating in the first order? So maximum grating is in D, and then the canal is the half of D. D over 2, so it's half D. Okay, right, just over the Kehe or IV. What would be the effect of varying the grating constant? So can good be machine la journal. Mehemejo grating, bag grating more. Right? So there's the n max usvage. So malachmid n at maximum, right? Then guje tesco. So the shin cosma d is gone lambda. Okay? So my atomidinian grating. If we change the grating to Harlem. So ni small at a nis small at a d ni small guje or do n avison. Using Celtic. So the more orders of the Galavian. So the bigger the D, the more orders. Because with the D getting small to the Ranther wavelength kernel, then obviously we're getting more orders. Okay. Part journal. Part V. How does the spectrum obtained from a diffraction grating differ from that obtained from a prism? That's my nation of Venedig. And prism, it's the complete opposite. Okay. So, Ensign Grill, she Jarek at a rente smoke. Or at a G rente, G rente is smoke. I guess Ensign Prisma, she and Violet at a G rente smoke. Okay. Tambala la heart. Alright, Shin Fregri, Kesney, Archig, 23. So let's just rummage back could you PowerPoint. So we need to kind for spray salt. So soon I get the journal clean image. So just remit free spray salt. So could you write spray salt, okay? So spray salt shin and tonad the hen exists as salt at alien to the hell. So we is dispersion. Spray is dispersion, okay? So erase the splatter just the rainbow colours, right? Now, king kill the charmer spectrum. So na the gentle spray solace the solace tug the spectrum or on rain should the hen atariga. So it's the rainbow produced is what we call the spectrum. Very straightforward. Alright? Okay, now shin sample shin spray solace and prisma. Now make this and shin nash near to me kind for refraction. Shin jarric is loose refracted because it has the biggest, longest wavelength. And violet is the most refracted. Okay? Whereas the Balella Hartfried Grell G Rente is the complete opposite. Was an okay. Was an okay again. Yeah. Now, so reached came for darling spray solids no hin solids boy freed prisma. So these darling shimmer alcohol and co-effect are rented in hour and prisma different. The tonad different the solids. So machine tan tonad different are rented freed Elena had different agus tarlin spray solids. So the hin show many when shahar men lubanan solids because the solids point until the more than any different they all refract at different angles. I guess hence it splits out. Does that make sense? And hence you get all the different colours. Hence we see the rainbow. Which is okay. Does that make sense? Okay. So tarlin spray solids. Now short can this diffraction grating rather than can't do that. So make this a spray solids and grill G rente. So we have a slit and then we have a diffraction grating and therefore chapter in the the Hamilton leak your spectrometer and ledger and the any different leaking bands. Can you give us in? So we have when you do some it's quite late to see all the coloured rainbows, but talking to any hit well it wasn't okay. But the reach change the red is refracted diffracted the most variable and ton that needs more again. Hence the angle is going to be greater. Okay? I guess my attention in Darnican because then any getting small, therefore the spread of the light will be greater. Chicken chip because the rant and angular dot. So it's going to be double this. Chicken three, the angle should be sine of this angle should be double sine of this angle and so chicken three and so on. Okay? Now to yet different the spectrum of tangent prisma against a tangent gel grill G renter. So she fragments the Majani horticulture journal. Now the gentle solid by the spray a prisma tan solid violet a G rente and coaches more against this jarric is blue. I say as the complete opposite from the freed grill G rente. Now ni harrigan prisma a spectrum away. It only produces one spectrum, the prisma. Whereas that diffraction grating it produces orders of spectrum, so it produces a lot more. Chicken soup. So chicken soup different the reverse. So that's the two differences between the reverse. Now, so these ik hungry tray prisma. Within a year prisma, we can change white light into rainbow colours back into white light by converting the two prismas. I guess you need gentle job. Is it okay? That's straightforward. Now, I guess these impact on this the spray solids. Spray solids usually there and two here, right? So rainbow gentle by the diffraction of the spectrum of dispersion of light. Now, near a hin solace na green boen free jar ishke. It only happens. Now, when he got a rainbow eka, the sun has to be at your back. What does it go could it be? You will not see a rainbow. Kind solace which are to cool. I guess kai have a car borsty. Okay? So run the Harlan shine Ryan solace free to jar ishke. The droplet of water acts as a prism and it disperses the light and then because to edit fat in leaky chichen, it creates the perfect arc. Okay, so Kalian and after in the Gunyenter and ton that for the spray agus factor in the Dehan leak. And you get the initially double rainbow river, and they're really large. Knocking then you get real moonbow. That's a rainbow produced by the light of the moon. Rare. Now, camera I've been very lucky. Because Hanny Mai you wine at the Shasta Chicano, we in term. And a big stockman car just some jet to hell the Hannyman art more buoyant. My father spaceship no running at the Moses way. As Hannyman art more buoyant. But when green we full moon on, we saw this really large on green. I guess we shall cut. We're not on green unyala. It's called a moonbow because Tinsal is the chart on unyala. We should do that. I guess have an arc more just pure white. You also coloured just a pure white arc into space. It's the coolest thing you had in. And I never even thought my phone would you want back to lock it up. Actually try a man on my phone, but we said it just wouldn't produce the my camera while you and you packed it up, but it was amazing. Like, but that's a moonbow. Why should I wear a moonbow? So that's a rainbow produced by the light of the moon. I can say cut. It's obviously mean galar mahu. I can see we made an arc more just this big massive white arc. I can waste the distance had an article like it was the coolest thing like. But in moonbow, so English in now. Funny, this is general Ali. Your primary colours and secondary colours for art is completely different for primary and secondary colours for physics, which is a bit awkward. Now your primary colours for physics is red, green and blue. See that is when your art? That's your now cyan, magenta and blue is your secondary colours in shop. So that must be your secondary colours in art, no? Oh, red, blue and yellow, yes, so next to me, see that was the rod. Now can do cost left, why show you our RGB cable? Red, green and blue cable that connects to the data projectors the so that's electronics, all based, physics is all based, art is different, so, right? So funny, to mask the DNA. So if we mix green and red we get yellow, so diagrams and all. And off by heart into that. Green and red gives you yellow, green and blue gives you cyan, and then magenta is the jadagus. Got it. Fairly mix all three colours and you took solace. Boy. Okay? Now so the primary colours is featured solid by the NU3 vascant in the source jadic, gloss and garum. So green, jadic, gloss and garum in the dehan the free. Okay? So very straightforward and the right proportion obviously. Now the enter the pre-will in gene kernel of the same density. That's important because otherwise you get any kind of colour if you mix the densities. So the mask and kernel is the tennis. So tennis means primary, secondary, and enter. So these cyan or cyan or begin to get a producer. I'm suggesting yellow cyan, cyan yellow, boy against magenta. That they have the tennis. So they're your secondary colours. Okay, we should okay. Very straightforward. Now, chalk to Chinese communic. So Jane can go on to shop. My vascant is the pre-will at the tennis. Right? Urhoda to the opposite secondary colour Hogan Solis when the masker yet is the cool lantaha. Yet shop. Right? So this is what we call complementary colours. Okay? Now, Corisha Kescher. List 3 pairs of complementary colours. So to the Golgarum, Eggsbui, so it's the direct opposite. So mark this is the diagram, Jen. Check in the 3 circles. So the Golgarum and directly opposite blue is yellow, directly opposite red is cyan, Agus gloss is magenta. So it's the complete opposites. Do you get it? So that's what we call complementary colours. Now I don't know H and East and Allen, and I don't know. It's totally different, yeah. So you need to learn 2 different sets, right? So it is Chinese Tatarta, because Chichen and East come in. Was it okay? So shin the primary colours. Now chain rod to five shin now just couple of factors to the solids ultraviolet, so you just need to know a couple of words about ultraviolet light. Now radiant ultraviolet na solids ultraviolet, solids UV, a tug the radiant electromagnet will turn out at the 0.4 micrometers and 5 nanometers again. Now tan solids UV gira to within violet are in spectrum in figure, so we can't see as UV light. Bin turn out niskere ega agus na remaining solids in figure. So astrin and grey and solids UV, astrin grey lampa filament rudbug solids UV faster. Now to lampa gal mercury and lampa UV oyster sa see her land grey. So we can actually come back to the it's a UV lamp. Okay. Okay. Now properties of UV lamp. So these case we able to at least three property of UV light. So these it produces fluorescence. So actually called say disco teacher pointer and you're glowing or UV light it fluoresces. Okay. So when you fluorescer the substitute in the hin and solids UV atu. So i.e. unseen shit and solids UV agus astin shit the rashi mer solids infected. So astin Vaseline paint na lunraha agus puder area nihan solids infected nor hitchin solids UV atu. So I should like the paint see that the luminous screens and that's all based on somehow the UV later to really glow. Yeah. Now so made the Raywick paint party, Raywick paint party, and that's all the UV then your like your mark that's good highlighter colours, and then going to UV black lighter to the glow on, like what it is. So if I can say a word, year word means an effect or a plate photograph, so photograph plates. So in this moment, yen and solids and fake. This is your closely so the reason actually you know develop a factory with darkroom I know digital on this, but for the hand you wrote digital, so they had darkrooms where just reading again, so they had UV light. So what I just all the point it would ruin all the picture. Hands why do you have a darkroom when you factory produce that? So these that's what it left it on photo plates when you the factory produce that. So yeah. So these fucking show yeah we're applied to photographer nis mona maria and solids and fake. I say increase less dull green, so sunburn. UV causes sunburn. Okay, so yen she dart in the sula agus cruise add she cracking it. Now, targin she vitamin D is crack, so important. Vitamin D. Okay? Now, shin cruise more than you is the lack of vitamin. The lack of vitamin D. So therefore climate supplements you to produce to get vitamin D because you go green. It's not strong enough, right? Now, ni harigin she Greg one go raw white as fageless stuff free, so it can't go through ordinary glass, but it is equals all free green color, right? So fade photo astro tarly the war, so photo emission occurs. Now you were with atlas in go fall, but later on in the chapters you'll understand what photo emission is. Okay, I guess yeah with the solids UV or plenty photographer no photo astro shin and fluorescent. So it's fade shin on a red UV every, so we can detect ultraviolet light by this. Okay, so reach ask all to couple of points to the UV light. Now, Canalenshin is infrared radiation. Now, radiant intergalactic out the radiant electromagnet will turn out as the 0.7 with 10 to the power 6 millimeters and 1 millimeter. Okay, now, adding the solids infragalactic, so properties of infrared light. So if I can see yeah, we're applied to photographer, exists feature usage on green grapha whole got the data. Okay, now it features less tastal to cure. Agus 3 cube. Alright, so agus is feature green graph a hoga for in the day arms in the war. So across the pack that he's to keep on and to some free clouds, but the lad in the car and these are the echo. So because they had all free clouds example. Okay? Now, so yen is a substance or a hitching she a hail, so it can heat up substances by infrared radiation. Agus can join this feature radiant infrared average and effort shave a bunch usage as balkan thermometer to it. So making Fahrenheit to the warm part of that human body. So research can heat up by using a certain equipment is to able to use infrared solids usage to see the warm part. So you can actually detect people that we go cart you can detect animals with warm blood agus anrod by the change in colour. Okay. Obviously, when we treat the spectrum whatever, the spectrum you need to know that spectrum and parts of it. So from the smallest wave right up to the longest wave. Okay, so there are gamma rays, X-rays, UV, solids and infrared, microwaves, and then we have TV and radio waves. Okay, I guess just to kind of do that is speed to Gasanro. So glution got on the electromagnetic less the 3 by 10 per 8 meters a second in a vacuum, and men electron less ni slew. Now, just in the ton electromagnetic good year are in the typical the ton. There's all show the typical wave nature of waves. So go ahead and change if we trust near agus G rain. So hence we can say that light is a wave form because it goes through all the same properties as a wave. Okay? Now, the communicate agus ton adig bread listen formula C equals F lambda. So the speed of light is by the frequency by the wavelength of the light. H will see is 3 by 10 per 8 meters per second. Agus the rest talk the radiant electromagnetic or ton electromagnetic faster. So it's called electromagnetic waves faster. And there we have end of chapter. Okay. Now, so should we draw modulation? So